Hey guys, Seth here. Today I will be going over Schwarz. Um, Schwarz is a short-range sniper. She has insane damage. 940 at max level. Her trust gives her an extra 100, so that means that after you're done deploying her, she's gonna have over 1,000 straight-up damage, which is it's crazy from a ranged unit. Just for comparison's sake, Exusai has 574, and yes, she's not max level, but that's like over 400 damage. It's insane. So Schwarz does an amazing amount of damage. Is the best short range sniper for sure. The drawback, of course, is she has a little less range. Instead of being able to reach 3 tiles straight ahead, she can only reach 2. And that drawback is definitely well worth the benefit of having the huge, just massive amount of damage she has. Okay, so let's go over her skills. She has 3 skills, as 6-star operators do. The first one is garbage. Don't use it. Don't use it at all. Don't touch it. It's bad. Once you get her out of E0, once you E1 her, her second skill is actually really good. Decent. Yeah, her skill 1's bad. Don't use it. Her skill 2 is just a little worse theoretically against 0 armored enemies than her skill 3, because it does have a faster firing rate and the attack increase is only a little bit less than the skill 3. Also, its duration is a lot longer than skill 3. It lasts for a lot longer, so the amount she gets buffed is over a longer period of time. She does do a lot worse against armored enemies than she does when using her third skill, because she shoots more shots in her second skill, which those shots are reduced by armor. Over time it does less damage than the lump sum, just massive, insane amount of damage she does in her third skill, which we'll get to, don't worry. The benefit of her skill 2 over her skill 3, though, is she can use her normal range in skill 2, so she still gets that two shots ahead and 1 to each side and 2 ahead of those as well. So in some maps, especially like the LMD map, it's nice for her being able to use her skill 2, because her skill 2 you still get that nice normal radius of shots. So her skill 3, definitely 100% the reason to use her. Her skill 3 does just insane amount of damage, is amazing against armored enemies even though she's a physical damage dealer. It morphs her shot, her range, into a straight ahead pattern, just like Ifrit's attack, and it deals an insane amount of damage to single targets. It does slow down her attack speed, so it takes her a little bit to get off her shots, but it's very marginal. It's not really that big of a drawback. And at M3, the skill cooldown of taking 25 SP to charge up takes exactly as long as the duration of the skill, which I think is pretty cool. You have the same amount of downtime as uptime, except for the fact that you also get to bring other operators along with. And so having support units like Talopsis, Warfarin, and Listgram are just a huge boon to Schwarz, because you can use her skill a lot more often, and having it up is just massive for your team. She just absolutely shreds enemies. The increased range as well also lets her hit enemies even further away than even just normal sniper ops like Exusai and Blue Poison, so it's really nice as well that her range is extended, even though she's a short range sniper. So she does even more damage than most other snipers and can hit from even further away, which is pretty sweet. And I know I definitely deploy her at some spots where she can't hit normally outside of her skill, but then she can hit when she uses her skill. And that's really nice that she has that flexibility, because her skill is up so often that even if she's not shooting all the time, when she is shooting, the impact she makes is just so big that it's just not a wasted unit to deploy at all. One key part of her kit though is her talents. Her talents are upgraded armor penetrated arrow. From E0 it's just a little damage buff, but at E1 it becomes armor penetration, and at E1 it increases or decreases the hit enemy's armor by 10%, and then at E2 it decreases it by 20%, which is definitely an awesome buff. Like doubling that armor degradation just for E2ing is great. It also increases her damage a bit, which is awesome. Normally this skill's proc rate is only 20%, which is pretty bad. Like 1 out of every 5 shots, which is okay, but her attack speed is pretty slow, so it can be kind of lame. But her skills increase this chance. Her skill 1 at max level increases it to like 90% chance, I think. Although again, you probably shouldn't be using her first skill. It just doesn't do a whole lot of damage, and it doesn't get the increased range as skill 3 does. And skill 3 always has the talent triggering at 100%, which is awesome, because it means that not only does she get the bonus stats from the skill, she also gets the bonus attack from the talent, the plus 160% as well as of course the armor penetration, which is awesome. Although for her talent 2, she doesn't have that high of a chance. At M3 it's only 50% chance proc rate, which is not so good, which just means that her skill 2 is a lot worse at dealing with armored enemies than her skill 3 is. Another thing to note about this skill is it isn't just for her, which is really important and really good, because that means that when she's paired up with other units that are hitting the armored enemies, generally like a blocker defender like Zarya, or a guard like Chen, they really benefit from her skill, because they get increased damage as well as she does. So especially if there's multiple of your allies hitting one enemy, it really wears them down really fast. So it's a great team player unit. And Crossfire plays into that as well. Crossfire increases her and other snipers' attack, as long as there are other snipers there to receive it. And it's really, Schwarz works really great with like Exusai, which, I mean, they're both just really solid units, so of course they work really well together, but the buffs that they can give each other just really stack up and add to the already insane awesomeness of the units. So next, what I want to do is go over, so her cost is pretty low at 20. It's really reasonable, I guess. It's not really that low. It's definitely a lot lower than Vulcan's, but it's a lot higher than Exu, and she's definitely one of the first units that I deploy as part of the heavy range team, I guess. After finishing the early game, like deploying units like Myrtle or Siege or Texas to gain some deploy points, she's one of the first units I position on the battlefield to really stabilize, to absolutely annihilate any enemies that are coming out and keep my blue cube safe. And she has really reasonable health pool and defense. It's kind of lame that she doesn't have any resistance, but she has a lot of health, a lot more than a lot of the other ranged units, so she does a good job not dying whenever she just gets randomly hit. So next I want to show off how awesome she is in challenge mode 3-8, because Skull Shatter is definitely a incredibly challenging enemy. And now we get to see exactly how good Schwarz does. I know I let Exu chip a little bit at Skull Shatter, but that doesn't really detract from just how insane Schwarz is. And Schwarz is just two-shotting the other enemies, making Skull Shatterer look like not a problem. So here, of course, is a drawback, just like I was talking about earlier. Sometimes Schwarz just can't hit the unit she's trying to attack just because they're out of her range, which is for sure a drawback. But with support units like Talopsis, she has that support to kill those enemies. Sorry about that. I wanted to make sure that drone didn't slip past. That would be pretty embarrassing. Well, that'll be all for this video. I hope very much this guide has been helpful to you, and I hope that if you already have a Schwarz, you treat her well and upgrade her, because she is definitely an awesome unit. And if you don't have her already, I hope you pull her soon. Good luck in the battlefield, Doctor.